This is KTVA TV, Channel 11, Anchorage.
And if I ever find out that you told, I will come to your house in the middle of the night and gut you like a salmon.
Dark secrets revealed on stage. A spotlight on an uncomfortable subject, the crime of child sexual abuse.
If you choose not to speak, you are letting it happen. No daughter of mine will stand by and let children be hurt.
Ahead on Frontiers, two survivors of abuse share their pain from the past. Vera Starbard and David Holthouse hope their stories will bring light into the darkness.
Sponsorship for Frontiers with Rhonda McBride is provided by Kupik Corporation and Spinard Builders Supply. Alaska, where there are old triumphs, but also new frontiers, with challenges as great as the state itself, but a belief the best is yet to come, bringing you the faces, the places, and the spirit of the last frontier. This is Frontiers with Rhonda McBride.
Welcome to our program, in which we are about to cross into a frontier that takes courage to tackle: fighting child sexual assault. But before we begin, a warning: the content of the show is graphic and not suitable for kids. So later in our program, we will introduce you to Vera Starbard, who was abused by an uncle when she was just 4 years old. Starbard is Tlingit and told her story in a play that was set back in an earlier time period. It's called Our Voices Will Be Heard, produced by Alaska Perseverance Theater and performed in Juneau, Hoonah, and Anchorage. Starbard is a graduate of East High and a longtime activist against sexual abuse. She was a strong voice at the Go Blue rally, an event to remind Alaskans April is Sexual Assault Awareness Month.
Sexual abuse really gets at your heart, it gets at your mind, and it twists things around to tell you that at 4 years old or 8 years old, this horrible thing is your fault. And so my mother told me for 25 years, it's not your fault.
Also in our program, we'll hear from David Holthouse, another Alaskan who also wrote a play about being raped as a child. Drama students at the University of Alaska Anchorage have brought Holthouse's Stalking the Bogeyman to the stage this month. And again, a warning: the story is too explicit for children to watch.
What's the matter? You scared? Stop!
This play is based on the true story of David Holthouse, a well-known Alaskan journalist who was just 7 years old when he was raped by a teenager he once looked up to, until the day he lured David to his bedroom and terrorized him with swords and martial arts weapons.
And if I ever find out that you told, I will come to your house in the middle of the night and gut you like a salmon.
The teenager became a real-life boogeyman to David, played by Devin Fry, who performs the role of David as both a child and adult.
It's quite difficult, especially with my size and stature. I'm around 6'4". After he was done with me, I pulled up my pants.
With so much sexual violence in the play, it would be questionable for a child to play this part.
We don't actually show the physical rape. We show Boogeyman intimidating David up to the point where he has a sword to his face and says, if you don't do what I tell you, I'm going to cut your face with this sword. And then he unzips his fly and says, take it out.
Is it true? Is what true?
As an adult, David plots to kill the boogeyman, but things turn around when David's parents come across one of his old diaries.
Sweetie, you can tell us anything, anything.
At the beginning of this process, I couldn't name anyone among my friends who had been a victim of sexual assault. Even though I knew the statistics, 1 in 3 for women, 1 in 5 for men in Alaska before the age of 18.
I think sometimes people will kind of shut themselves off to the reality of what those numbers mean. And I think a play like this brings those numbers to life.
Rebecca Valina Robinson is part of a group of mental health professionals who attend the rehearsals and performances to be there for both the cast and the audience.
We just knew that it was important to have somebody around to make sure we were doing this play responsibly.
If you're not suffering, you're not doing it right. especially for this play.
Devin says the play has exacted an emotional toll.
You can leave this behind in the space, but when you go home, it's still going to be waiting for you.
Growing up, I felt like a werewolf had bitten me. And it was only a matter of time before the full moon rose.
So you plan on killing yourself?
It's been extremely difficult to separate myself from some of the woes of David.
David also turned to drugs, and while each survivor of sexual abuse may react differently, the play gives the audience an opportunity to express how they feel in writing or in talkbacks after the show.
I thought it was just going to wear me out. Instead, I've found that when we do the talkbacks, I don't need to play video games for an hour when I get home.
Beyond the therapeutic value of the play, there are hopes the audience will come away forewarned and forearmed.
How do I keep my children safe? How do I know if this potentially happened? How can I make my family stronger so that these kinds of things don't happen to us?
Mom, what's going on?
Once I got cast in this role and started telling people about the subject matter, several of my friends opened up to me about their own experiences, and it was this moment where you realize that you were surrounded by people this has happened to.
He said you would hate me if you knew.
David, it turns out, was not as alone as he thought he was. Stalking the Bogeyman runs for 2 more weekends with performances on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday at the UAA Fine Arts Building. Coming up, scenes from 2 powerful plays. Also, Vera Starbard and David Holthouse join us to talk more about Shattering, the Silence of Sexual Assault. But first, Facebook comments from viewers about what this issue means to them.
I just want cremation.
Cremation specialist in Alaska.
Can I have a service before cremation?
Our staff is committed to serving your needs.
I just want something basic. The simpler, the better.
Specializing in simple cremations. Whatever your reasons are for choosing cremation, call Cremation Society of Alaska, 277-2777, or in the Valley, 373-8627, and on the web at alaskacremation.com.
The Alaska Native Tribal Health Consortium provides comprehensive health services for Alaska Native and American Indian people across our state. In addition to world-class care at the Alaska Native Medical Center, our work delivers health services for rural Alaska. From cutting-edge technology for the best care possible, to modern construction of clean water systems and health clinics, to health training and outreach that honors our culture, our vision is that Alaska Native people are the healthiest people in the world.
Air travel for Frontiers is provided by Pan Air. When business or recreation takes you anywhere across the state, Pan Air is there. The only family-owned airline serving Alaska. Pan Air, the spirit of Alaska.
When I got here, I heard this term, uniquely Alaskan. And I thought, what does that mean? Then I started covering these events. Iditarod, Mount Marathon, Arctic Winter Games, hockey games in 20 below. So now I know what uniquely Alaskan means.
Congratulations to KTVA 11 News, winners of 9 Goldie Awards from the Alaska Broadcasters Association. KTVA is there when news happens. From this summer's devastating Sockeye Fire to investigative research, honored for groundbreaking coverage of Alaska sports. From Seward to Nome, delivered by Alaska's finest sportscaster. And recognized for creating new frontiers, KTVA 11 News is there when news happens. Be there.
In case you've just joined us, we want to mention once again that the content of this program is not appropriate for small children, but this is a subject that cries out for discussion among adults. Just look at these numbers. The FBI says Alaska has more rapes per capita and a rate of child sexual assault 6 times the national average. Well, those are the numbers, and joining us to put a face on those numbers, 2 Alaska playwrights, Vera Starbard and David Holthouse. You know, I think one thing that might help people sort of understand your stories is to look at you as children. So, David, we have a picture of you at 7 years old, just like a typical Leave It to Beaver kind of kid. Can you tell us a little bit about, you know, when that happened, how you changed?
It's my 2nd grade school photo, and that was taken around the time that I was sexually assaulted during a dinner party at an upper middle class household in Eagle River. And you know, the perpetrator was a high school star athlete. He was a cool guy. He was a guy that would act like a big brother to little kids. He was the last person that a lot of people would suspect. He was a predator with great camouflage.
So Vera, we have a picture of you when you were abused starting at 4 years old. So can you tell us a little bit about the circumstances of your abuse?
Sure. Yeah, it was between 4 years old and 8 years old that my uncle started abusing me when I was 4, and it continued until I was 8. And it happened in 2 communities. And my mother at 8 years old, from the behaviors that I had that were changing. Yeah, saying like the behaviors that I had, like I was being very secretive. I was not taking showers anymore. I had some pretty big red flags going on, and she finally questioned me and asked me, really bullied me into getting it out.
You know, in a lot of small communities, people are afraid to combat the perpetrator, but your mother did.
Yes, she definitely had an uphill battle. She was taught she had been abused, and her family had taught her to be quiet about it. And I still don't know why she knew to speak out, but she went immediately to the police. She went immediately to social workers, and she got him in jail. He went to jail for 2 months.
So did that help you get over this?
I don't know that I'll ever be over it, but it helped me get through an awful lot where if she hadn't done that, I think I'd be dead. I don't think I'd be here today.
Well, David, why did you choose to tell your story through the format of a play?
Because I could. I'd already been a professional writer for a decade and a half when my parents found a childhood journal that I'd kept where I had written at a very early age about being a sexual assault survivor. And when they confronted me with this journal and asked if it were true, once I knew that they knew, my first instinct was to write about it.
Well, we have a scene, this is another one, where you are, you know, a gonzo journalist as you describe yourself. Can you set the stage for us?
Sure, this is a scene where David is meeting with his drug dealer, who is also a survivor of childhood sexual assault. So they have this interesting rapport where it's drug dealer and customer, but also they have this bond of both having gone through these horrific experiences as kids. And this is a scene where David is talking with Molly about how he wrestled with the stigma that he felt society imposed on him as a male survivor of childhood sexual assault.
Okay, so let's take a look.
I used to go climbing by myself in the mountains around Anchorage all the time, and there was this one peak, ptarmigan, with this gnarly north face couloir. I was going to throw myself down it, smash on the rocks, make it look like I lost my eye sacs and failed to self-arrest.
Jesus. That seems a little...
dramatic?
More like complicated. Why not just hang yourself, like a normal kid?
Because I didn't want anyone to know I'd killed myself.
Well, why did you want to do it?
Well, I didn't want to exactly. I thought it might become necessary.
Necessary?
A harm prevention measure.
Harm to who?
Little boys.
Jesus, are you saying that?
No, God, no. I was just afraid I'd want to. Look, every child molester who gets busted, what's the first thing he says? Oh, poor me. It's not my fault. I can't help myself because it happened to me when I was a kid. The whole cycle theory, right? Well, growing up, I felt like a werewolf had bitten me. And it was only a matter of time before the full moon rose.
So you plan on killing yourself?
No, I plan to kill myself if I ever started looking at little boys the wrong way. I mean, can I just buy some Coke, please?
How much?
Teener?
Cutting back. Good for you.
Yeah. A picture of health.
You know, you shouldn't call them child molesters.
Why not?
It's a euphemism. They're rapists.
So David grows up from this experience kind of troubled in many ways.
Yeah, I mean, one thing I encourage everyone to consider is that childhood sexual assault is not just a criminal justice issue, it's a public health crisis. A lot of childhood sexual assault survivors use drugs and alcohol in abusive ways. And if you want to reduce drug and alcohol addiction rates, if you want to reduce suicide, if you want to reduce mental illness and all of the cost to society of those issues, financial and otherwise, reduce childhood trauma. It's that simple.
So what about, the stigma of sexual abuse? I mean, you talked about that in that scene.
Yeah, I mean, for me personally, growing up, the message I got from the way that childhood sexual assault was covered in regards to male perpetrators is they were often quoted saying, well, I was abused as a kid. And so the message, my takeaway from that was that there was a causative effect between being sexually abused as a child for a male and becoming a predator yourself when you grew up. And I was horrified by the prospect that that's what I was going to become. And of course I didn't become that. And that's the truth for most, I think, male survivors of childhood sexual assault is it happened to us, but it stops with us. But you don't hear about us because we don't get arrested.
Well, I guess the awareness for women has been out there for a while. Vera, do you feel it's different for women and for men?
Definitely, and that's somewhat why I was glad that David's play was going on at the same time as mine. There's certainly a stigma for women, but it's different.
What's the stigma for women?
The victimhood is, I think, a big stigma, and that even speaking out, me saying this right now can be seen as wanting attention, or you just need to learn to live with it. Especially being Alaska Native, there's a huge stigma there.
Well, we have a scene from your play, so can you set the stage for what we're about to see?
Sure. This is pretty far into the play after the mother has discovered the abuse of the daughter, and she's taken her child away from the village it happened in, away from the family, and they're alone. The daughter has discovered abuse at the school, and her mother is telling her what she needs to do about hearing about this abuse.
So let's hear this.
But what if they don't believe me? What if it does no good?
Kutan, I tell you it does not matter. You must use your voice to let someone know. And if nobody listens, you must at least show those girls that you are using your voice for them. You must let them know that someone is going to say, this is wrong. You must let them hear you.
No. No, Mother. It will be so
terrible. It's a shameful talk. If you do not use your voice right now, you might as well be hurting those girls yourself.
Mother, that is terrible. I am not hurting those girls.
But you are allowing it to happen when you have the ability to make it stop. You bear responsibility now. If you choose not to speak, you are letting it happen. No daughter of mine will stand by and let children be hurt.
So there we have it. Boy, that's almost like a pierce in the heart there, where she says, if you are silent and let it happen, you're just as bad as the perpetrator.
I definitely believe that. In my case, the play was not so much about the perpetrator or even the abuse themselves. The entire play takes place after the abuse, and it follows what happens once the abuse is found out, that the silence can actually be worse than the abuse sometimes.
Well, you know, in small communities, there's a different dynamic than a city because no one is anonymous in a small community. So oftentimes when survivors speak out, they're shut down harshly.
Yes, and my mother certainly was. She was told to shut up about it. She was told that from a very young age. So the fact that she spoke up made all the difference in my life.
So David, can you tell us a little bit about, you know, some of your experiences in taking your story out? Because you've been on ABC's 2020, you've been on public radio, reading segments from your story. So do you think that you ever get through to people? How long is it going to take?
Well, I know that I reach a lot of people. I mean, it's having this play produced here in Anchorage, my hometown where I still live, is a different experience from any of the national media that I've done or the production in New York because, you know, people know me here. You know, in New York, the play would go on, I'd walk out of the theater, I'd leave, I'd round a corner, and I'd vanish in the crowd. But here, people talk to me all the time about their own experiences as kids.
So these plays, in a way, make it safe for people to open up. One thing I do want to ask you about is your perpetrator. What happened to him? Because I know you've outed him publicly.
I have. Short answer is I have no idea. I have no idea what happened to him.
But what is the takeaway from confronting him with this? At one point you were going to kill him, and then you changed your mind.
Well, you know, when you're sexually assaulted as a child, you come into possession of some crucial knowledge, which is that you know the identity beyond any shadow of a doubt of someone who is a predator who sexually assaults children. And what you do with that information at the time or as an adult, you know, is a very personal decision. I don't mean to say that every survivor has a responsibility to out their perpetrator, but you know, by outing your perpetrator, going to the police, and by the way, there's no statute of limitations on this crime.
Here in Alaska.
Not anymore. You know, you can take action to stop them from doing what they did to you at any age.
So for you, Vera, I understand that your play may go to the Alaska Federation of Natives Convention. At least something is in the works for this as a possibility.
Certainly hope so. The Elders and Youth Conference and/or the Alaska Federation of Natives Convention in Fairbanks, we're trying to get it there because that's exactly the audience that I'd love to have see this is Native leaders. We've got 50th anniversary of AFN going on, so it's a crowd that I think needs to hear this message.
So when people see your play, what kind of reaction have they had?
Almost everyone who has been abused or who have experienced that in their family themselves comes out of it talking about their own story. And that was so much of the point of the play, was not to have them come out and talk about me, but to feel encouraged that they could tell their own story.
We have just about a minute left, and I want to ask each of you, and we'll start with David, who is telling the story for you or for others?
Oh, the answer is both. The answer is both. I mean, it's telling the story for me is probably the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. But I also recognize it as probably the best thing I've ever done in my life for the greater good.
Vera?
I think I've told the story for me since I was 8 years old, and now it's for everyone else.
All right, well, I want to thank both of you for joining us, Vera Starbard and David Holthouse. We really appreciate hearing these stories firsthand, but we are going to continue this conversation on the web. And up next, we'll provide you with contact information for resources to get help, plus Walking the Walk, a fun event to raise awareness about a serious topic. But first, a look at some more Facebook comments.
Spenard Builder Supply. We know it takes a lot of ingredients to get it just right. That's why we have design centers in every store to personalize the most important rooms in your home. We'll help you select cabinets, faucets, and appliances that fit your style. So all you have to worry about is how much oregano goes in Mom's pasta sauce. Spenard Builder Supply. Building for life.
Now offering financing with no payments or interest for 12 months. Visit our design experts today at your local Spenard Builder Supply.
We think that how you get there is as important as being there. Schedule passenger service, charters, cargo, work, or play. The spirit of Alaska is who we are. When business or work takes you to Bristol Bay, Dead Horse, or anywhere across the state, Pan Air is there. Trust the only family-owned airline serving Alaska for over 60 years. Pan Air. Let us be a part of your journey.
I thought I was the only person who didn't know how to drink appropriately.
Alcohol was a best friend for years, and eventually it stopped doing that.
I just knew I had to quit. I needed to be there for my children.
My day one was May 22nd.
My day one was...
Day one for me. My day one.
My day one.
Day one.
My day one was September 29th, 2009.
I was really nervous, borderline scared at the starting line at Mount Marathon. And I had done stories about it. I knew the mountain, but these are a whole different breed of runners. These Alaska trail runners, they're serious. To look up and know, oh my gosh, I'm gonna get to the top of that, and that feeling when you get to the top, it's changed my family's lifestyle because now we're out climbing mountains every weekend. And there's just always somewhere new to go, somewhere else to explore, another mountain to climb.
It's an event many look forward to, the annual Walk a Mile in Her Shoes. It's a lighthearted international event with a serious message. Men wear high heels to raise awareness about sexual violence. Proceeds for the fundraiser go towards standing together against rape. You can walk the walk at the University Center Mall on Saturday, April 16th. The fun starts at 11:30. Well, we want to leave you with one more look at places that you can turn to for more information on sexual assault. Here are a couple of statewide numbers. You can reach Standing Together Against Rape or STAR by calling their toll-free number 800-478-8999. Again, 1-800-478-8999. Or you can call Alaska Cares Children's Advocacy Center at 877-561-8301. That's 877-561-8301. Well, those were the statewide numbers that we've posted. We also have a comprehensive links to these organizations and numbers specifically for Anchorage on the Frontiers section of KTVA.com. Well, we want to thank you for being a part of this week's conversation. One small step in shattering the silence. We'll see you next week.